The blood rushed to Ellaner's fingertips as she pressed the key card against the scanner of her own hotel, the Grand Azure, and watched her sister block the entrance like a guard. The glass doors reflected her calm face, but inside, her heart raced. From within, she heard her father's booming laughter echoing through the lobby she had personally designed. Guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses passed by, unaware that the woman being denied entry was the owner of everything they admired. "You can't seriously think you're coming in?" Vanessa said, adjusting her designer gown, an imitation Ellaner recognized from her friend's unreleased fashion sketches. Vanessa stood taller, her voice low and mocking. "This is the Grand Azure, Ellie. The tasting menu alone costs more than you make in a month." Ellaner's fingers tightened around her clutch, the small envelope inside containing the deed to a luxury villa in Tuscany, a birthday gift for the man who once told her she'd never amount to anything. "He's my father too," she said quietly, refusing to step back. Her tone was calm, but her pulse thundered. This wasn't about a party. It was about everything she had been denied, the respect, the pride, the acknowledgement. Her sister tilted her chin, amused. "Mom and Dad were very clear," Vanessa said, examining her reflection in the glass door. "They only want successful people here, people who don't embarrass the family." The irony made Ellaner's lips twitch in a humorless smile. Just yesterday, she had signed off on a $100 million expansion for Azure Hospitality Group, the very company that owned this hotel and 34 others around the world. Yet here she was, being told she wasn't good enough to enter. "I'm sure they'll survive the embarrassment," Ellaner replied softly. Vanessa snorted, mistaking composure for weakness. "You left the family firm to play waitress, remember?" she sneered. "Dad was right. You never had a head for real business." 10 years ago, those words had cut deep. Today, they only reminded Ellaner how far she'd come. Back then, she'd walked away from her father's small accounting firm with nothing but ambition. Now, she managed an empire that made his world look microscopic. But her family never saw it. They never asked. They never cared. They had decided who she was, and she'd let them, until tonight. The sound of heels clicked across the marble as their mother appeared, perfectly coiffed and disapproving as ever. "Ellaner," she said sharply, "what are you doing here? We discussed this." No, Ellaner thought, you discussed it. Her mother's text from that morning still burned in her memory. "Don't come to your father's party. It's at the Grand Azure. You can't afford it. Don't embarrass us." Ellaner forced a polite smile and lifted the envelope slightly. "I brought a gift." Her mother's gaze flicked to the clutch. "Oh, a gift card to Olive Garden." Vanessa laughed cruelly. Or maybe she saved her tips for something from the mall. Ellaner said nothing. The Italian leather clutch in her hand cost more than Vanessa's entire wardrobe, but she didn't need to prove it. "Whatever it is," her mother continued, "I'm sure Vanessa's gift will be more appropriate. She just made junior partner, you know." Ellaner nodded faintly. She knew everything, from her sister's firm's financial strain to their pending lease negotiations with one of Ellaner's own buildings. "That's wonderful, Mom," she said. "I'm happy for her." Her voice carried warmth, but beneath it simmered steel. Vanessa's smirk deepened. "And you, Ellie? Still playing manager at some chain restaurant," she taunted. Ellaner thought of the boardroom she'd left that morning, the one overlooking the skyline of New York, where she'd finalized a partnership deal that would soon make her company's valuation soar past $2 billion. "Something like that," she murmured. Her mother gave a theatrical sigh. "You really should learn from your sister. She has a house, a fiancé, a career. You can't just drift forever, Ellaner." The words were meant to sting, but they barely grazed her now. She had built her own world without their approval, her own legacy without their help. "You can't come in," Vanessa said suddenly, folding her arms. "This floor's for VIPs, family, and distinguished guests only." Ellaner's brows lifted. "The VIP floor," she said slowly. "You mean my VIP floor?" Vanessa frowned in confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing," Ellaner replied, hiding her smile. "Let them speak. Let them boast." The louder they spoke, the sweeter the silence that would follow. Her mother gestured dismissively toward the lobby. "We've invited important people tonight. The Andersons, the Blackwoods, Mr. Harrison from the bank, all very high society. Ellaner almost laughed. Thomas Anderson leased 3 of her properties. The Blackwoods had been begging for a membership at her private island resort for months. Mr. Harrison's bank had just applied for a major loan from her investment division. Impressive guest list, she said mildly. You see? Vanessa replied triumphantly. You'd feel out of place here. Probably, Ellaner said with a faint smile. Her mother's eyes narrowed. Don't make a scene, Ellaner. Just go home. Your father doesn't need stress on his birthday. Ellaner looked through the glass doors again, at the lobby she designed down to every chandelier and sculpture. She had paid for this beauty in sleepless years, not trust fund dollars. All right, she said at last. If that's what you want. Her voice was soft, but her decision was already forming. She would not leave her own empire's doorstep like a beggar. Not tonight. Not ever again. Just then, Gavin appeared, Vanessa's fiancé, every inch the smug banker in his fitted gray suit. What's taking so long? He asked, irritation already dripping from his tone. Then he saw Ellaner. His confident smile faltered. Oh, didn't expect you here. Clearly not, Ellaner replied coolly. Her mother jumped in, eager to redirect attention. Gavin just made vice president at his bank, she announced proudly. Ellaner's expression remained neutral. Junior vice president, she corrected softly. His face darkened. He wasn't used to being corrected, especially not by the sister they all dismissed. Well, still more impressive than whatever you do, Vanessa said sharply. Ellaner only smiled faintly. She could still picture the boardroom table she'd left hours earlier, covered with merger documents that would soon make Gavin's entire bank a subsidiary of her holding company. Something like that, she murmured again, voice calm and unreadable. Her mother huffed. This is ridiculous. Ellaner, please go. Before you make a scene. We'll tell your father you couldn't make it. Vanessa added with a laugh. Couldn't afford it, you mean? Their laughter blended with the music spilling faintly from the lobby. Ellaner stared past them at the marble floor, the chandeliers, the reception desk gleaming in soft gold light. All of it hers. Every inch of this space bore her name in the paperwork they'd never read. She could walk away and still own the night. But a voice from deep within her reminded her of her mentor's advice years ago. Success means nothing if you can't stand up for yourself. Ellaner drew a breath, straightened her shoulders, and let the steel in her spine settle. Actually, she said quietly, I think I'll stay. Before her mother could respond, the glass doors swung open. Owen, her tall head of security, stepped out, posture crisp and authoritative. Is everything all right here, Madam CEO? He asked, voice echoing clearly across the entrance. Your usual table is ready, and Chef Michelle is waiting for your tasting approval. The effect was electric. Vanessa's face drained of color. Her mother froze mid-breath. Even Gavin's jaw slackened. Ellaner smiled warmly at her trusted employee. Perfect timing, Owen, she said. My family was just explaining how I can't afford to dine here. Owen frowned slightly. But, ma'am, you own the Grand Azure. Silence dropped like a curtain. Yes, Ellaner said softly, turning back to her stunned family. I do. Shall we go inside? Vanessa blinked rapidly, her confidence dissolving. This is some kind of joke. No joke, Owen replied professionally. Miss Ellaner Thompson is the founder and CEO of Azure Hospitality Group, owner of all 35 Grand Azure hotels worldwide, as well as the Azure Resorts and Dining Collective. The clutch slipped from Vanessa's hand and clattered against the marble. That's impossible, she whispered. The Grand Azure is worth billions. Indeed, Ellaner replied gently. Which makes your earlier comments about me not affording dinner rather amusing, don't you think? She stepped forward, her heels clicking softly as she entered the lobby. The front desk staff immediately straightened. Good evening, Miss Ellaner, called Rachel, the manager. The executive suite is ready for your father's celebration. Thank you, Rachel, Ellaner said kindly. Then she turned back toward the stunned trio still rooted at the doors. Coming. They followed her in silence. Every staff member they passed greeted her by name, concierge, bellhop, hostess, all of them smiling with genuine respect. Vanessa's eyes darted around like she'd stepped into a dream she didn't understand. "But your dress," her mother managed finally. Ellaner looked down at the sleek black gown flowing like water around her. "Custom made in Paris." "I don't recall the exact cost, perhaps 30,000, she said lightly. "Unlike Vanessa's dress, which I believe is a knockoff. The authentic collection hasn't been released yet. I attended the private showing myself." Vanessa's cheeks flushed crimson. Ellaner reached into her clutch, producing a slim silver keycard. "Shall we take the private elevator? It's reserved for distinguished guests." Her mother said nothing. The keycard beeped softly, and the doors slid open to the gold-lined interior. The elevator hummed upward. Vanessa stared at her shoes. Gavin tugged nervously at his tie. Their mother clasped her pearls as though prayer could undo the humiliation. Ellaner remained silent, watching the numbers rise. She didn't need to gloat. The truth was its own thunder. When the doors opened, the soft jazz of the VIP lounge spilled out. Crystal chandeliers glowed above a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. Conversation ceased as they stepped inside. Ellaner, her father's deep voice carried across the room. He stood at the head table, surprise written all over his face. "What are you doing here? Your mother said you couldn't afford it." Ellaner approached slowly, the murmur of the crowd fading. "Happy birthday, Dad," she said softly. "I hope you don't mind me crashing the party in my own hotel." The guests stared, whispering. Mr. Harrison, the banker, stepped forward first. "Wait, you're Miss Thompson?" The CEO of Azure Hospitality. His relief was almost comical. "We've been trying to secure a meeting with you for months." Ellaner gave a polite smile. "I suppose you've found your opportunity." Thomas Anderson approached next, astonishment flashing in his eyes. "Robert, you didn't tell us your daughter was the Ellaner Thompson, the one acquiring properties all over the city." Her father's mouth opened and closed without sound. The revelation spread through the crowd like wildfire. Within seconds, the whispers turned to applause, admiration, and polite laughter, all directed at the woman they'd ignored moments ago. Her father sank back into his chair, his complexion ashen. "All this time, when we thought you were a glorified waitress." Ellaner's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your words, Dad. From the day I left the firm to pursue my own path." Her mother's voice trembled. "But why didn't you tell us?" Ellanor's gaze softened, though her tone stayed steady. "Would you have believed me? You didn't then. Why would you now?" Silence spread through the table. Vanessa sat motionless, staring down at her untouched wine glass. "You always measured worth by status," Ellaner continued quietly. "Now you can measure mine by your own rules." Vanessa looked up, her face pale. "The villa in the south of France I tried to rent last summer, the one that was unavailable, mine," Ellaner confirmed gently. "My property manager forwarded me your reservation request." Gavin cleared his throat, trying to recover dignity. "And the office building our firm's leasing. Also mine," Ellaner said calmly. Her mother's lips parted, but no sound emerged. "And, Mother, that resort membership you've been on the waiting list for?" She smiled faintly. "You'll have to wait a little longer. Demand is high." A few guests tittered nervously. Ellaner turned back to her father. "But tonight isn't about business. It's your birthday. Enjoy it. Everything's on the house, my house." The applause that followed was genuine yet awkward, a patchwork of admiration and discomfort. Ellaner stepped aside as servers poured champagne. She didn't need the spotlight. The truth was light enough. Her mother tried to speak again, voice trembling. "We never meant to. It's all right," Ellaner interrupted softly. "You don't have to rewrite history." Vanessa slumped in her chair, mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. "I can't believe this," she whispered. All this time, Ellaner finished for her. "You were looking down on the person paying for your office rent." The words weren't cruel, they were simply facts, stripped bare. As the evening continued, the atmosphere shifted. Guests who once ignored Ellaner now flocked to her side with eager smiles and practiced charm. "We'd love to collaborate," one whispered. "You're extraordinary," another gushed. She nodded politely, offering the same measured smile she used in every business negotiation. Across the room, her mother hovered awkwardly by the dessert table, trying to act proud. Her father sat silent, his fork untouched, staring into his glass as if the champagne could explain everything. Ellaner felt the weight of their regret, but no satisfaction rose to meet it, only a quiet ache. At one point, Gavin excused himself to make frantic phone calls. Vanessa pretended not to notice. Her fiancé's expression told a story of its own. The partnership her firm was counting on was collapsing. Across the room, the Blackwoods approached Ellaner, voices dripping with admiration. "We've always admired your vision," Mrs. Blackwood said, eyes wide with polite desperation. "Perhaps we could discuss that resort membership?" Ellaner smiled. "Of course. I'll have my assistant call you next week." They thanked her profusely and retreated, whispering behind their champagne flutes. Mr. Harrison cornered her next, nearly spilling his drink. "Miss Thompson, about our bank's pending loan. We'll discuss it Monday," Ellaner said, tone firm but courteous. "Tonight, I'm just family." He nodded eagerly. Around them, conversations hummed again, but the air was different, reverent, cautious. The people who had dismissed her minutes ago now treated her like royalty. And yet, deep inside, the thrill of vindication faded quickly, replaced by something colder. She realized that the respect she was finally getting had nothing to do with love. It was all about money. Hours passed. The birthday cake was cut, champagne refilled, laughter forced. Her mother kept glancing at her, as though hoping for a chance to rewrite the narrative mid-evening. Vanessa avoided her gaze entirely, staring into her drink. Ellaner smiled when expected, spoke politely when addressed, and played the role of the gracious host she'd perfected years ago. Yet beneath her calm surface, a small part of her grieved, not for them, but for the version of herself that had once sought their approval. When the crowd finally began to thin, Ellaner slipped out to the terrace for air. The city stretched below, glittering and endless. Her father found her there, shoulders heavy, expression uncertain. "Those buildings," he said quietly, pointing to the skyline. "How many of them are yours?" "Enough," she answered. He nodded slowly. "I was wrong about you, Ellaner. So terribly wrong." She didn't look at him. "Yes," she said. "You were." He hesitated. "Can you ever forgive us?" She turned to face him. "Forgiveness isn't the issue, Dad. Respect is. You never respected my choices. You respected success after it proved itself." His shoulders slumped. "I just wanted you to have stability." "You wanted control," she corrected softly. "And when I refused it, you called me a disappointment." He winced, but didn't deny it. "I was proud tonight," he whispered, "seeing what you built." "You were proud of the results," she said gently, "not the journey." He stared out over the city lights. Maybe that's true. She let the silence hang between them, filled only by the hum of the city below. "I don't expect anything from you," Ellaner said finally. "Not apologies. Not praise. Just honesty." He nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "You've become someone remarkable." "I always was," she replied quietly. "You just couldn't see it." She didn't say it cruelly, only truthfully. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, realizing there was nothing left to argue. When she returned inside, the band was packing up. Vanessa sat alone, dabbing at her eyes. "Ellaner," she said hoarsely. "I don't," Ellaner said softly. "You don't have to explain." "I was jealous," Vanessa blurted. "You did everything we couldn't." "And I just repeated what they said." "I know," Ellaner replied. "You wanted their approval. We all did once." Vanessa nodded miserably. "Can we ever start over?" Ellaner hesitated, her expression unreadable. "Maybe someday, but not tonight." Her mother approached next, tears clinging to her lashes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We thought you needed our protection. We didn't realize you were protecting us." Ellaner offered a small smile. "You still don't realize it, Mom, but that's all right." Her mother took her hand hesitantly. "You must think we're terrible." "No," Ellaner said softly. "Just small. The word wasn't cruel. It was honest, and her mother's face crumpled under its weight. By the time the last guests left, the ballroom was quiet. Ellaner dismissed the staff with warm thanks and made her way toward the private elevator. The mirrored doors reflected a woman she almost didn't recognize, composed, elegant, powerful, and utterly alone. Her reflection smiled faintly back, and she thought of the years she'd spent chasing a family's approval that had never been hers to earn. She had won, but victory, she realized, could be a lonely sound. Her phone buzzed, a message from her assistant. Flight ready at dawn. Milan meeting confirmed. Ellaner typed back a quick acknowledgement, then slipped the phone into her clutch. Her world was already pulling her forward, to deals, expansions, headlines, but tonight had reminded her of the cost. She stood for a long moment at the window, watching her father through the glass below as he spoke with the few remaining guests, his shoulders heavy. The sight stirred something complicated: pity, affection, distance, all at once. When she finally stepped into her private office on the top floor, the city lights glittered like scattered diamonds below. The desk bore her nameplate, Ellaner Thompson, founder and CEO. She traced her finger along the engraved letters. "The glorified waitress," she whispered, half smiling. She sat down, opened her laptop, and pulled up the document her legal team had sent earlier that afternoon. Acquisition agreement. First National Bank. Gavin's bank. With one signature, the circle would close. But her pen hovered. The thrill she'd expected didn't come. Instead, she thought of her father's trembling voice, Vanessa's hollow eyes, her mother's brittle smile. Power didn't heal what years of dismissal had fractured. She closed the laptop softly, without signing. Some victories, she realized, weren't worth stamping twice. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. From her office window, she could see the faint reflection of the terrace where her father still stood. He looked small now, an aging man dwarfed by the empire he once mocked. Ellaner rested her head against the glass, watching him leave. A quiet peace settled over her. Not triumph, not bitterness, just closure. She had nothing left to prove. As the city lights shimmered below, Ellaner whispered to herself, "I finally took my seat at the table." But the words carried no gloating, only calm understanding. The table was hers, every chair, every chandelier, every brick, but the warmth she'd once sought from that family would never be served there. She smiled faintly, stood, and turned off the lights. In the reflection of the darkened window, she saw not a daughter seeking approval but a woman who had built her own world and learned that ownership and belonging are not the same thing.